Good evening, thanks for joining me this Tuesday on 7Edition. I'm Muhammad Ahmad Hamdan and these are tonight's top stories. Government to amend laws against human trafficking. Murder suspect arrested after 9 years. Good evening. Police shot dead 2 male foreigners who were believed to be behind the kidnapping syndicate of foreign nationals in Lembah Kelang. Both suspects were also believed to be connected to the murder of a man whose mutilated body was found on January 13th. Following an investigation, the police managed to track down the location where the victim was being held in Taman Mudun Kajang early today. A crossfire between the police and the 2 suspects ensued when the cops raided the house, killing the duo at the scene. A Bangladeshi man in his early 30s, believed to have been a kidnapping victim, was rescued unharmed. The victim was believed to have been kidnapped in Sentul last Friday before he was locked up in a house close to the location where he was abducted. Police said the syndicate, whose targets were Bangladeshi workers in the capital, had demanded a 200,000 ringgit ransom from the victim's family in Bangladesh. However, the 2 men's identities have yet to be ascertained, as there were no documents on the suspects. Further police investigation also led to the arrest of 2 local men believed to be members of the syndicate. The Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, MMEA, foiled a human trafficking syndicate involving Vietnamese nationals off the Endau waters in Johor. Pahang Maritime Operations Deputy Director Captain V. Panir Salwam said this was following the arrests of 19 Vietnamese immigrants in a boat that had attempted to escape authorities near Tanjung Kempit, Endau on January 30th. A Vietnamese woman who is believed to be the syndicate leader has also been detained.
During a media briefing at the Mersing Maritime Base in Johor this morning, he revealed that the MMEA are still tracking down 1 more suspect.
Syndicate ini juga dipercayai didalangi oleh seorang lelaki Vietnam yang bernama Nguyen Hai Au yang telah melarikan diri setelah mengetahui bot tersebut ditahan.
Following the arrest, Salwam said a follow-up operation was carried out, resulting in another arrest, this time of a Vietnamese woman who is also a Malaysian resident at a house in Tanjung Gemuk Rompin on February 3rd. The suspect was believed to be coordinating and managing trips for more Vietnamese illegal immigrants into Malaysia. Also seized were 36 Vietnamese passports and 52 Seaman's book with fake approval stamps. The case is being investigated under the Passport Act, whereas the illegal immigrants are investigated under the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act, the Immigration Act and the Fisheries Act.
The government will not tolerate any party that continues to be involved in the trafficking of local or foreign workers. Human Resources Minister M. Kulasegaran today said the ministry is prepared to declare war on human trafficking and forced labour, and will also look into changing the country's patchwork of decades-old labour laws to offer both domestic and foreign workers more legal protection in Parliament this coming March. In a media statement today, Kulasegaran said the government's seriousness in the matter is proven through the setting up of a Royal Commission of Inquiry, RCI, to investigate the human trafficking camps and graves in Wang Kelian that were uncovered 3 years ago. At the moment, there are 8 acts related to the country's labour law that need amending before the year 2020. He said the government's commitment is important as Malaysia is one of the recipient countries for foreign workers in the Asian region. Other measures taken include a tripartite cooperation involving government representatives, workers' representatives and employers' associations. He also said that suggestions have been made to the National Labour Advisory Council, NLAC, with regards to Malaysia's fight against forced labour. Police this morning arrested an Indonesian man who is believed to have been involved in a murder case that occurred 9 years ago. Perak Tengah District Police Chief Superintendent Muhammad Zainal Abdullah said the 63-year-old suspect with a permanent resident identification card was detained to assist in the investigation of the victim's death, who was an Indonesian foreign worker. The suspect was arrested at a house in Taman Bamban Surya in Batu Gajah earlier today and is in remand for 7 days. On May 6, 2010, 22-year-old Rafiq Rahman's body was found without any identification on him and with bruises on his face and body. Despite taking place 9 years ago, Muhammad Zainal said an investigation was still ongoing under Section 302 of the Penal Code for murder. Based on an initial probe, the murder is believed to have been motivated by debt. The victim died from stab wounds to his heart. And now on to the inquest proceeding into the death of firefighter Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim. This morning, Coroner Rofiah Muhammad, several officials and 3 witnesses arrived at the riot scene near the Sifil Sri Maha Mariamman Temple in Subang Jaya, where Muhammad Adib's ribs were broken, which led to his death. The inquest team spent about 40 minutes at the scene listening to the witnesses describe the events of the night of November 26th and the early morning of November 27th last year. This included explanations on the positioning of the 2 fire engine vehicles from the 3 witnesses on the first day of the inquest proceeding on Monday. Once satisfied with the explanation, the inquest team proceeded to the Subang Jaya Fire and Rescue Station depicted in the incident. There, the coroner, including the media, were given a 1-hour briefing. They later inspected the FRT vehicle and the EMRS van and got a close-up of the damages on the 2 vehicles before leaving at 1:15 p.m. The Prime Minister's Communications and Media Advisor said today that after 8 months governing the country, the Pakatan Harapan PH administration has not produced any tangible results for the public to see. Dato' A. Kadir Jassin said Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamed's move to convene a new Economic Action Council showed the Prime Minister considers his administration's machinery ineffectual in handling key issues. In his personal blog post published earlier today, Dato' Kadir said Malaysians were also growing disappointed with the performance of the PH administration, singling out cabinet members and civil servants. He also said the government was already facing economic and financial challenges left by the defeated Barisan Nasional BN and must prepare for a global slowdown stemming from the US-China trade war. Dato' Kadir went on to say that many know that Tun Dr. Mahathir is personally dissatisfied with the performance of his cabinet ministers, and this is evident when he is asked about ministers' incompetence when he meets the public and the media, adding that ministers' preoccupation with taking selfies and their growing inaccessibility were concerns among the public. Dato' Kadir added that he personally witnessed how ministers were now being treated like kings by their aides and segregated from the public during events where they were meant to mingle with ordinary Malaysians. Yesterday, the Prime Minister's office announced the formation of the council, headed by the Prime Minister, comprising ministers and business leaders, to tackle the economy and arrest the rising cost of living. The Economic Action Council's main objective is to stimulate economic growth and to improve equal distribution of wealth, as well as to look at issues related to the cost of living, human resource, poverty and home ownership. The Prime Minister said that it was vital for the government to listen to the opinions and views of others to ensure the successful development of the country. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said this is the reason why the Economic Action Council was set up. At a media conference in Putrajaya today, Tun Dr. Mahathir pointed out that during his first stint as Prime Minister between 1981 and 2003, he had similarly established an Economic Council years after he took power.
And any government that does not want to listen to outside people wants only to depend upon the cabinet, even if the cabinet is made up of very brilliant people, that government will go wrong. So it is important that we listen to other people, and we would have set up this thing right from the very beginning when we took over last year. But of course we were very busy, and now it is we feel that we have enough time to set up this council, and we will use this council to get feedback from the council on what is happening in the country and ideas from them for solving problems as well as the way forward. Thank you.
He was responding to his communications and media advisor, Dato' A. Kadir Jasin's statement earlier today that the decision to establish the council was due to realization that the current administration was unable to handle issues plaguing the country. Tun Dr. Mahathir explained that among the council's main focus was on the economic development of the country, as well as to resolve any issues relating to investors and reducing the country's debts. Now, 7 members of Parliament MPs who left UMNO last December have now joined Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia Bersatu. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who is also Bersatu chairman, handed over their new membership cards today. It was a simple handing over ceremony which was held at the Perdana Leadership Foundation in Putrajaya this afternoon. Tun Dr. Mahathir later told the media that the MPs would only be accepted as ordinary members and that they will not hold any positions in the party.
I think if I look into your background, I am quite sure you commit some minor misbehavior. Maybe something wrong. But if you look into the past of everybody, you cannot appoint anybody because they all have made mistakes in the past. But you can't hold that against them. It is what they are now that counts.
Nevertheless, Dr. Mahathir gave assurance that they would not be protected by the party should they be charged in court for any offences committed while in UMNO.
He gives his opinion.
Now, the National Urgent Response or NUR alert will be activated once the police receive missing persons report involving children 12 years and below, regardless of whether the child has proper identification or not. Pahang Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Zakaria Ahmad said so far, no child has ever been exempted or left out from getting the assistance they rightly deserve from the alert system.
Datuk Muhammad Zakaria said this in response to the brutal murder of 11-year-old Siti Masita Ibrahim, who went missing since January 30th. Her decomposed body was found in an oil palm plantation by villagers after 11 days. Previously, Pekan District Police Chief Superintendent Amran Sidek said that the NUR alert system was not activated after a missing persons report on the child was filed. He said this is because her parents were foreigners and had no identification documents. Women, Family and Community Development Deputy Minister Hannah Hyo echoed Datuk Muhammad Zakaria's response in her Twitter account. NUR Alert is a system that disseminates information quickly to help locate missing children aged 12 and below.
Coming later, a horrific scene of dog being pulled alive by a truck in the streets. Details next. Welcome back. Now it's time for our daily segment, Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. Recently, a video of a dog being dragged on the road by a pickup truck in Taiping, Perak has gone viral on social media, picking up tens of thousands of views on various platforms. Based on the 42-second video, the white-coloured dog was believed to have been tied up by its leash to the back of an Isuzu D-Max while the vehicle was cruising on the streets. The dog was still alive at the moment, as the video saw it struggling to free itself from being dragged on the road. The footage was recorded by a car tailing the truck, and this led to many netizens questioning why didn't anyone in the car do anything to stop the vehicle. While some other netizens thought otherwise, that perhaps the dog could have fallen off the back of the vehicle, which might have escaped the owner's attention. Others shared their sympathies for the dog and plead to dog owners to make sure their dog is safe. OCPD Superintendent Razlan Abdul Hamid said the police received a report on the incident on Monday, and the man involved was then arrested. The man claimed he was not aware that the dog had fallen off and was dragged after he placed it in the back of the vehicle. Sadly, the man had allegedly wanted to abandon the dog because it was always biting the wiring at his house since the dog was a year old. The case is investigated under the Animals Act for animal cruelty. And now updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Malaysia's uptake of crude palm oil, CPO, hopes to reach 1.3 million tonnes per annum by 2020 through the increase of palm oil content in biodiesel used for the transport sector. The increased blending percentage of biodiesel from 10 to 20% hopes to cut record stockpiles and boost prices for palm oil in Southeast Asia's third largest economy. One Izul Islam has more.
With the strengthening markets of crude palm oil in Malaysia, the government must now look towards fulfilling that of the B20 biodiesel policy ahead that of the year 2020. The B20 policy includes that of 20% biodiesel fuel from crude palm oil, as well as 80% of diesel petroleum in that of the transport industry. Now, support from all sectors is needed to help reduce that of emissions of fossil fuels in Malaysia. Primary Industries Minister Teresa Kok believes that the move would also reduce high stock levels whilst encouraging more stable and better CPO prices.
To stabilize the price of biofuel so that it won't fluctuate, too much. Like now, palm oil price has been going up, but because diesel price is still low, so it is still the price is still very reasonable. But then, what if come to the point that the palm oil price has gone very high and diesel price has gone up a lot? So that will be very costly for the public to use biodiesel.
She added that the government will also try to raise the palm oil content in biofuel for the industrial sector to 10% next year, from a 7% quota being implemented in July 2019. The minister was speaking to reporters after officiating the opening ceremony of the Biofuel Business Forum, organized by the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. Indonesian Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture Musdalifah Mahmud, who was also present, encouraged Malaysia to begin trials for B50 biodiesel fuel, which is currently ongoing in Indonesia.
Not only B30, actually B50 already on trial in Indonesia. We have the car mobile from Medan to come to Jakarta using B50 and then going back to Medan. Hopefully this week they arrive in Medan already, and so far the engine is no damaged.
Malaysia's palm oil inventories fell to 3 million tonnes in January after experiencing increasing demand and falling production. The increases in the amount of palm oil mandated for biodiesel known as B20 for transport and B10 for industrial use, will boost the use of the vegetable oil to 1.3 million tons annually. Wanisul Islam, 7Edition.
Now back to local news. The exchange TRX has secured 2.15 billion ringgit in financing facilities for 5 years from a consortium of banks. The banks are Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corp, Malayan Banking Berhad, Standard Chartered and Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corp. The exchange TRX was launched this morning by Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng, who also witnessed the signing of the debt financing agreement. Amanda Lopez has more.
The exchange TRX was launched this morning by Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng, who also witnessed the signing of the debt financing agreement. Formerly known as a lifestyle quarter, the exchange TRX is a 17-acre mixed-use development within the larger TRX development. It is being developed by a 60-40 joint venture between Australian developer Lendlease and the Finance Ministry's wholly owned TRX City Sdn Bhd.
Concrete manifestation or the confidence investors and financial institutions have in doing business in Malaysia under the administration of the new Pakatan Harapan federal government. This government will continue to maintain a corruption-free, business-friendly environment to keep the confidence and to raise the well-being of the people.
The Malaysian government is not guaranteeing the 2.15 billion ringgit financing for the project, as the guarantee is set against the development.
The government of Malaysia did not need to guarantee this. What we do is we look at the asset itself, we look at the cash flow generation that will be made by it, and the asset stands alone to service the debt. That is a good outcome for the government, the project itself.
The gross development value of the project is estimated to be in excess of 9 billion ringgit, with TRX City's net investment amounting to 1.2 billion ringgit funded by land injection into the joint venture.
This is the first debt financing package we've put together. Lendlease is committing $2.1 billion ringgit of capital over the life of the project. The government's committed 1.2 billion for this lifestyle quarter for that component. So it's a big capital commitment by all of us.
TRX City Sdn Bhd expects to open its doors to tenants in the second quarter of the year.
So rest assured that the TRX is detoxified. It has now been cleaned up and is moving forward as a world-class international global project. Committed to rooting out corruption at all levels. And I think this should be a signal that for those investors coming here, rest assured your investments are protected by the rule of law.
The entire International Financial District TRX development is estimated to have a completion value of over 40 billion ringgit. The exchange, TRX, has a forecast value in excess of 9 billion ringgit. Amanda Lopez for 7Edition.
According to demographic data released by the Department of Statistics today, Malaysia's population grew 1.1% to 32.6 million in the fourth quarter of 2018, compared to 32.2 million in 2017. It revealed that of the total, 16.8 million were male and 15.8 million female. The preponderance of males was also reflected in births in the same period, with 65,800 babies being male and 61,600 were female. In total, there were 127,400 live births during the period, which is a decrease of 2.5% compared to the fourth quarter of 2017. In terms of deaths, 41,400 fatalities were recorded in the fourth quarter of 2018, a decrease of 1.9% compared to the same period in 2017. On top of that, the number of males who died was 23,800, while females accounted for 17,600 deaths. Now, to learn more about this issue, we have on the line with us Professor Dr. Muhammad Shatta Sabran, who is a social expert at UPSI. Professor, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Muhammad. I really appreciate it for having me.
Great. Now, can you tell us, from your expertise, what are the causes of having a gender imbalance in a country? What does that mean?
Well, socially, we could say we do not have a big problem by having like a male or female, which one who's bigger. It doesn't matter whether we have more female or more male in the country. Again, as a country, we need to have both. And of course, if you are asking why we have more female and why less female or vice versa, and of course, you need to ask the medical expert. But again, if you are looking at the average life expectancy in our country, 75 for female and about 73 for male. So again, as a country, we need both. But of course, in the long term, if this trend continues, we have some consequences in terms of job market, labor force, and so on.
Right. Now, how about the consequences? How would having a gender or sex ratio imbalance affect a country in the long term?
Well, if you ask me now, it's not going to be really a big impact. But again, as a country, we need to plan ahead, because, of course, there have some differences for male and female in terms of doing job and work. So again, as a country, they need to make some good planning, the proportion, how many male population going to be here for the next 10, 20 years, and the same thing with female. And if you ask me whether it's going to be bad or good for the country, socially, it's not going to see a tremendous difference. You need to have both, but again, they have some small impact in terms of distribution or the type of job that we have in this country.
Professor, thank you again for your insights and for your time.
Thank you very much.
Now that wraps up 7 Edition this evening.